From Southern California, welcome to the Unscared Sports Show. It is Wednesday, June 27th. I am Doug Katona along with my host,
Brian Mackenzie.
And we're doing this, as you can tell, in a little bit different location today. It's been planes, trains, and automobiles lately for us. We're both back in Southern California. We've been out of Southern California more than we've been in Southern California, basically almost the last month.
I've been in Southern California for not even 2 hours.
He just got back. I just got back from Germany doing some seminars, and Brian's been back in New Jersey getting all kinds of things ready. He's getting ready to go to NorCal. And
tomorrow morning.
So how do you feel right now?
Overwhelmed.
We almost had meltdown just before the show, just so you know. If you saw what was happening,
it may happen on the show.
If it happens on the show, it happens on the show.
I'm going to take Eli out first.
Producer Eli is over there just laughing.
Producer Eli Rodriguez.
Eli Rodriguez. So look,
he loves that. Producer Eli Rodriguez. Look at that.
What you can't see right now is he's actually buttoning up his shirt.
He's buttoning top button down like a vato.
One of these days we'll get him on camera. You'll get a chance to meet him. So, look, hey, show today is about what do you do before training. And it's something that not enough people think about. And I think in my experience, and you were back east coaching a lot. I've been coaching a ton the last week or two. And it's almost entertaining as a coach for me to go watch people warm up before a workout.
What warm up?
Right.
What warm up?
And you think about it, if you don't warm up properly, not only can you get hurt, but you're really missing out on an opportunity to improve skill and get your body ready for actually moving heavy load really fast.
Yeah. No, I think, I think actually Starrett's done a great job of getting out mobility and people actually attacking some mobility stuff prior to doing a workout. And, a lot of people do the general dynamic thing, but I still think people have no concept of a warm up. And interestingly enough, I was looking over Erin's. She wears a heart rate monitor when they train for rowing, and we catch everything. So there's like a 2 hour block of what's going on, and you see this heart rate kind of go, and it steadily climbs up for 10 minutes up into higher percentages. And then all of a sudden it just drops off, and I'm like, okay, what'd you do here? And then all of a sudden it goes up and down and up and down, not real high, but but it's up and down. Then it drops off again, and all of a sudden it shoots way up, comes back down, shoots way up, comes back down, and it repeats this a couple times, and then it goes into a training effort, which is literally 30 to 45 minutes prior to the actual workout of what she's going to be doing.
Well, and I think, how many people, what you kind of just described in a way is that it's almost like we talk about having 3 pathways metabolically to address.
Yeah.
And you've got to address those things in a warm-up. I mean, you've got to do some short, hard, quick efforts. You've got to do something that's semi-oxidative along with all the other, the detail stuff that we'll talk about in a second. But, too many people, just like we talk about traditional LSD work, too many people do the same mundane type of warm-up time after time.
I've been working with this ultra runner in a little bit. She's going to be doing Badwater, and the typical warm-ups of runners. It's like you go and give somebody like, hey, all right, you got like a 10. I want you doing a 10 mile or 10K. I want you hitting it between this mark and this mark, which is usually I send it out somewhere between 80 and 100%. Yeah. Right? Parameters are a little closer when I give it, but it's like. They just go and they don't warm up. They just go out the door and go run.
Or how many people are going to do a 5K or a 10K or a criterium or a hard wad, and what they end up doing is they'll warm up, but everything is at such a low level, they never really spike their heart rate. They never get their body used to that effort that they're going to be doing actually in the sport.
Yeah,
which is a huge mistake. So if you're going to go out and train hard, part of your warm up has to include some intensity. So it's not just all low level, I'm just getting my joints loose and my muscles ready.
Agreed, 100%. So, there should be quite a bit of intensity coming into it, especially if you're going to be doing some sort of steady state effort or a CrossFit WOD that's lasting 10, 15, 20 minutes, right? You're going to be pegged with your heart rate for 15, 20 minutes, but you're barely getting it up anywhere close to that prior to going.
So, rule number 1, make sure you're addressing intensity in your warm-up. Because, and we're not saying full out 95% jaw dropping, seeing 2 white lights. We're just saying a little spike of the heart rate, something that causes you to understand once you start to go through your competition or your workout, your body has to get used to what that's going to feel like. And it's really important, especially if you're one of those people. You may take a while to warm up. I know a lot of you send in questions to us and you say, you know what, I just don't feel like I get a good enough warm up. Well, guess what? Your warm up's not good enough. So that intensity part is really important.
So if we were looking at heart rate, and you don't need to look at heart rate, but I mean, just take the intensity gauge, and in a 10-minute period, you should literally be going like this. Maybe not up towards 100%, but pretty damn close to that, like that. That is exactly what it should look like as you're getting warmed up. And then that drops off, and then like I was talking about earlier, what we saw was little blips like this, which is where she was doing mobility, doing some, stretching, doing some rolling out, and then went back into more intervals, and it just went boom, 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 then dropped off, steady for like 3 to 5 minutes, and then it was wham, right into the workout.
And somebody like he's talking about an Olympic level athlete or some of the games athletes that we coach, they can handle a little bit more intensity in the warm up because they're going to recover faster. For somebody who's not as experienced, you're going to space those efforts out. So instead of seeing those big spikes, you're going to have a little bit more space in between. So understand that there is, it sounds odd, but there has to be a recovery period in your warm up periods with intensity.
Yes.
So that intensity factor is really, really important. I think on top of that, know what you're doing in the warm-up. I mean, how many people have absolutely no focus on what they're doing in the warm-up? How many of you go out and do the same warm-up, or if you know you're going to do a CrossFit WOD, how many of you do the same warm-up all the time? Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, your warm-up should be as dynamic as the workouts that you do, and I think that's a really important point.
I have, like, for the 3 kids who I've got going to the games, we've got roughly 3 to 4 different warm-ups, but that's addressing the first part. Mm-hmm. Then it goes into mobility, and then it's supposed to go into the skill-based and intensity-based for each workout, right?
Right. So tell everybody what you go through as a coach, and then I'll share that as well, is how do you break up the warm-up? Do you look at some sort of SMR mobility piece, and then do you move them into a flushing out period?
So I don't have a problem sharing any of this, but it's, it depends on how many workouts you're going to be doing in a day. So you've got an A, a B, a C, and a D, because they may be doing 4 workouts in a day.
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily 4 monster workouts, okay? They've also got a recovery piece in there, which I wanted to actually, there's another program I use for the recovery piece, but we're looking at the recovery piece. Right. There's also a mobility piece. Each workout is identified, and mobility for that day is based upon their weaknesses and upon the workout, what's happening, and it's prioritized. So I prioritize it like that. The first workout has a warm-up, a general warm-up that goes on, and that's the warm-up they're to do, at least for one of those workouts that day. It starts out as aerobic activity that increases just past that aerobic activity, then then cuts, and then we get into mobility and some more sports, or workout specific stuff. It's simple, and it's usually 10 minutes of work.
So 10 minutes, right? So we're talking something right around 10 minutes before you really start to get into additional, more specific work that's going to reflect or mimic what you're actually going to do during the workout.
Absolutely.
And that might be the time that you could mix in a skill piece, which is a nice... Working on a skill as part of your warm-up is a nice way without the intensity or the load to work on some speed or some dynamic effort. So I might toss that in the beginning with some people. Anything else you toss in a warm-up that you think is important in that first little phase of a warm-up?
Weaknesses they have, things like that. General, sometimes we'll have muscle ups, sometimes we'll have bar muscle ups, sometimes we'll have handstand push-ups, sometimes we'll have a max rep, 1 round of something. Right. Or they'll do 3 rounds of Cindy or, whatever. Inside that structure of doing something, it's usually monostructural. So it's, run, swim, bike, or, even row, which, changes a lot of things. So
I think that's an important piece for a lot of you out there is addressing a skill or a weakness. And then what Brian said is, look, it's not like we're going to program as coaches. You're not going to see us program, give me 5 rounds for time of. Usually I'm going to write, give me 3 rounds, not for time, and it's going to be lower repetition. It's probably going to be no more than about 3 sets of something. And I'll allow you as an athlete to rest as much as needed to recover to be able to fully perform the movement in the warm-up that's going to mimic what you're going to do in the program.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really important piece. So intensity, focus, and then you actually got to start to move, right? So once you start to move, the key here is to make sure that you have an awareness of what you're going to be doing in the workout. A lot of people take an awful lot of time between the end of their warm-up and getting into the workout. So recommendations that you like to give to your athletes: how much recovery time do you give them before they start jumping straight into the WOD?
After they've gone through everything, 3 to 5 minutes usually. 3 to 5 minutes. Let everything drop off. You know, and that all depends on fitness level as well too.
Yeah.
Because somebody who's not as fit is going to need a little bit more recovery between, just like you were stating earlier, is going to need a little more recovery time between these things. They're going to need a little bit more recovery, and that needs to be taken into account. Especially, you know, you take a look at a group setting, a group class. Some people, you know, there's varying levels in that thing.
Yeah.
So you have to understand, you know, you've got to be able to take that into consideration.
You said you were coaching a lot. When he was back east,
CrossFit Mercer.
CrossFit Mercer, there you go.
Yeah.
And you were coaching, teaching a lot of classes, which you haven't done in a long time.
Yeah.
Did it change any of your thought processes going through those warm-ups again? And kind of what were you going through? Is it did you find a lot of people actually knew warm-up, or did you find that was that a big learning piece?
I think it was a big learning piece.
Yeah.
I think they had I mean, these guys, they warmed up. They did some sort of warm-up, but I was dragging warm-ups out longer, and we were going specific to what it was we were going to be doing. So we would, you know, all right, we'd go. Everybody usually go run because he didn't have enough rowers, right? So I'd have them run for 10 minutes to start, and they'd come back, and then we'd go, or they had the option to jump rope. And then we would go into mobility-specific stuff. Then we would go get into the WOD, and we'd go skill-based, ramping up the intensities, taking it up, and then attacking everything.
Did you incorporate anything like Bergner warm-up? Did you do any of that for? Yeah. So I think, you know, for me as a coach, I spend a lot of time on the dynamic piece of the warm-up. If anything, I want to make sure that while you should, it's just like in a race, you want to roll to the starting line and you want to be sweating already. You want to have gone through some of that intensity already. You should be focused and know what you're doing, and then you got to start to move a little bit. When you look at that, maybe that's going to take you 15 or 20 minutes inside or outside of doing some mobility pieces. So I think it's really important to understand that you have to plan what you're going to do in the warm-up before you start to get into your workout. Otherwise, you're going to get into your workout and you're going to defeat the whole purpose. And you're going to spend the first 1/3 of your workout trying to recover and get warm for the final 2/3 of the workout. So I think that SMR, that mobility piece, and we've heard Kelly talk about it a lot, is really important. I want to talk about that a second because we get a lot of questions on that. How much time do you allow your athletes to spend when we're talking mobility piece? And sometimes those of you that are teaching in a group setting,
mobility should take about 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, so look, there you go. 10-minute general monostructural, 10 minutes of mobility, 5 to 10 minutes, and then starting to do skill-based work, 5 to 10 minutes. There's 30 minutes.
Which is pretty normal. So look at that. If you're going to go and slam through your warm up right away, again, you know, the purpose of this is to not only get you ready for your workout, but if you're spending enough time in pre-training, you can refine skill, and you're not going to hurt yourself. And I think, you know, people are lifting heavier and heavier. People that are following main side, it's getting heavier all the time. So this first part of pre-training is critical. And these are the 3 big issues: intensity, focus, and then you have to start to move a little bit. So now, what do you do post-training, right? So we're talking about pre. What about post? Everybody kind of wants to lay around and talk and twitch on the floor, right?
Yeah.
And that's always a fun thing to do, and tell war stories and maybe break out a foam roller. But what do? Everybody wants to get done and get in the car and go home, but there's more work to be done when you're done training.
That's right.
So tell us what you do for your athletes. What do you tell them to do after a workout?
5 to 10 minute cool down. Walk it off. usually walk it off.
So this was a big eye opener for me at regionals. Because I think our athletes were the only athletes after the regional workouts that were putting their headphones on, and everybody else was high-fiving and celebrating, and we took our athletes and we made them walk around for about 5 minutes, and it made a big difference, right? Yeah. So post-training, you got to do it, right? So we're talking probably about a 5-minute period, maybe more, okay? Just depends on who you are, and a basic, simple thing to do.
Well, I think it also depends on if you cool down or not.
Yes.
And that's a big thing. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. To where the body, if it stays hot and if it's staying hot, you're not cooling down. There's something wrong. So you've got to cool it down correctly. And this is where an ice bath for maybe 5 minutes or less might come in. I'm not a big fan of longer ice baths anymore, but for that purpose it would be something like or a cold shower for like just to get the body to cool down. So when the body cools down, that's the whole idea, is to get the body to properly cool down.
And remember, it's body cooling, and as soon as your workout's over, as soon as you're done training, you should already be thinking about the next training session. So that recovery period starts immediately after that last rep. So if you're one of those people that kind of just sits down and doesn't do any of that, you're already putting yourself at a deficit for your next training session. So I think that's really important. We do this a lot with our athletes, and I'll actually at the end, toss in sometimes a little bit of extra stretch. And that might be as little as 3 minutes on a certain body part that may be real tight.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So I may actually do that myself as a coach. I might lay somebody down. I might start moving around a little bit. But it's really important so that when the athlete's sitting down for a long period of time, they don't stand up. And we always have a joke sometimes if we trained hard and we're sitting down for a long time. And I just had it before we got on camera here. I almost locked up with my hamstrings because of what I've done the last couple of days. But because I didn't do enough of this after, I've been rushing around. And you know what? You really pay the price if you don't do that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, think about it. The tissue gets tight. It gets cold. You're not taking it back out. The joint gets locked up. Yeah. It's no wonder why you're tight and you hurt.
Yeah. So and I think this is equally as important as what you do before. It's what you do after. And then on top of that, we always get the question, tying it all together, what do I do with my nutrition post-WOD? Is it okay just to drink plain water?
Sure
you can, if you're hydrated, right?
Yeah.
Sounds kind of silly, but if you're not hydrated and you go straight water, you're going to be in trouble. So talk about that for a second. I mean, how long after a WOD do you need to start to ingest something?
As soon as you can.
That's the answer, right? So workout's over and you've got to get something in your gut right away. We like to get something in as fast as possible within about 10 minutes. 10 minutes, not 40, not 60, but as soon as you can. So if you're going to go out and walk for 5 minutes, sometimes I'll actually take protein powder and I'll give it to the athlete while they're walking around. If they want to start to sip on it, that's an ideal time. If not, that's fine. But within about 10 minutes, you need to ingest something for recovery.
Yeah.
So this is also the time too that you've got about 10 or 20 minutes after a workout. After you ingest something like that, if you want to go regular food, you can. But the most important thing to put in your body, obviously, is protein. Tell everybody why they got to put protein in their body. Why is it important?
Well, you want to rebuild everything, don't you? Amino acids.
Tissue breakdown occurs, and it's a tissue issue. I've heard somebody say that before. And you got to get the tissue ready for the
next
next
You're not going to deplete yourself in 20 minutes of hard-ass work of your muscle glycogen. So that's not necessarily the first thing you need to be looking at. And if it is, you need to fucking do some serious work on your nutrition.
So along with hydration and protein, anything else that we always tell everybody? Think about it at home. If you're going to be doing something 20, 30 minutes real hard, you get a little bit of protein in, you're hydrated, do you need anything else? And usually the answer is no one knows, right? So we like to start topping off with some sort of macronutrient like a fat. If you need to at that point, you can start mixing in some sort of complex carbohydrate after the workout. Anything else on top of that?
Not that I can think of post, but 90 minutes. I like to have some people eating something.
So it's exactly right. So 90 minutes, that's when you can start going macro and increased hydration. I have an athlete that's competing in a half Ironman this weekend out in Texas, Susan Wallace, and this has been part of our plan, is to actually plot out what she's going to do before and after she's getting ready for Ironman. So that's been a big part of our strategy, is actually to talk about what is she going to do after the workout, because she's got to go out and train again on Monday, Tuesday after that half. But this in order is really, really important. Post what? 10 minutes protein, hydration, some sort of macronutrient within about 60 to 90 minutes, and then top off with more hydration. So I think that's a good plan for the day. If we can tie anything else together for you, send it in through Facebook. Send us questions. We'll be more than happy to answer that stuff for you. That was a quick one, but we had to get it done. So we will see you again in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Thanks for tuning in.